everybody. Welcome back to East Africa with me, Rachel Griffith. I am super excited to be sitting with you today and continuing to talk about vision, practical application of steps on how to, one, receive vision, and two, walk it out. All right, so in the last few teachings, we were talking about connecting with God. Principle number one to receiving vision is connecting with God. You got to hear from Him in order to get this vision and to walk it out. That's where faith is going to come from. And that's where you're going to have confidence to begin this process in receiving vision from the Lord. Today, we are going to talk on wisdom. One of my favorite things to talk about and to understand is wisdom. I find it absolutely fascinating and incredible the way that God created us. And we know that God is full of wisdom. Talks about in the epistles the manifold wisdom of God, which means many-sided. And I just pulled up the other day with my husband. We went to the supermarket. There was the most beautiful flower, hanging down, so ornate, red and just beautiful. And I was just telling him, like, can you imagine, the infinite wisdom that God has, that He created every animal, the human body, and look at these plants. I mean, how many plant species are in the world that look different? That came from inside God, the Creator, in His infinite wisdom. And what I love is that God desires for us, His children, to have wisdom, understanding, knowledge on how to do things. And if we read in Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding. When it comes to talking about vision, you are going to need wisdom in order to walk this thing out and go for it. I said my steps for vision and success are connecting with God, gaining wisdom, receiving a strategy, and doing the work. So this is the wisdom part of this. The Bible is full of wisdom. One of the things I love is when you look at when God calls the Israelites out and He has them build the tabernacle, He has them build the Ark of the Covenant and make all of these things. It says that He put in them the wisdom on how to do it. He put in them the insight. So what they had no idea what to do, they weren't craftsmen of gold or things like that. They had no idea. God put that wisdom in them. It says in James that if anybody lacks wisdom, let him ask. For God gives liberally, right? God desires to give wisdom to those who ask. And if we will set our hearts to say, Lord, I am connecting with you because I want to hear you and I want to know you. And Lord, I need wisdom on this thing. I need wisdom. This is what I believe you're putting in my heart. This is what I believe you're speaking to me. So now I need wisdom on how I'm going to do this. How I'm going to, begin to do these things. And let's take a look right here. There's so many great examples in the Word on this, because what I like about the Old Testament as well is it gives us many practical applications of people that are not just in the ministry. So you have, in the New Testament, we hear a lot from the apostles. We're all in ministry. Paul did work with his hands some, but the Old Testament gives us, leaders, politicians like Daniel, gives us a regular average guy like Gideon. It gives us King David, right? So it gives us all different types of people in different types of positions in life. Because I might be in ministry, and what I need is, I need wisdom and a strategy and things to do for the ministry. Well, you may not be in ministry. Maybe, you're a teacher. Maybe you're called to business. Maybe you're called to politics, or you're a mom and you need, you have a vision for doing things for your family, your kids, your neighborhood. You need wisdom in those areas. And guess what? God has got it all. Okay, so I'm going to look at Joshua. Joshua was in with the Israelites when Moses was there. When Moses died, Joshua becomes a leader. And here they are. They are going to take the land that God has given them. And there are all of these obstacles in their way. Like a lot. I don't just mean an obstacle. I'm talking about like cities. Large, massive, fortified cities with militaries and people and all of these things. And Joshua has been given the task to lead these people to victory, to see the promise of God unfold in their life. And you know what? When you're going after your vision, there are going to be obstacles. There are going to be things that arise. That's just part of going after something. You know, there's a safe place where you can stay in, where nothing ever happens, kind of nothing ever happens, but that's not, even things happen there. And then there's beginning to step out into what God's put in your heart. And there are going to be things that you face. And the Israelites were facing things. They were facing Jericho, which even in history was an incredible fortified city. There was no way in or out once that thing was sealed and shut up. So here's Joshua staring down Jericho, you know, and he could have been like, oh, what are we going to do? You can't, you know, what am I going to do, Lord? I'm trying to follow your vision, and now here I am. I don't know what I'm going to do. But you know what? That's not what happened. What happened was the Lord speaks to Joshua and says to him, I've given Jericho into your hand. So Joshua gathers up the men of war and the priests, and they get together. He says the mighty men of valor, and they go, and Joshua receives this very interesting insight. It's wisdom. Wisdom leads you in to something that you can't naturally do on your own. Insight you didn't, have before. It's not like that Joshua left and he was just like, oh, this is just what we're going to do when we get to Jericho. He got there. He wasn't for sure until God spoke to him. See, connecting with God, right? He receives wisdom, and in that he receives a strategy. And what that was is he was going to take the men. They have their trumpets. And for 6 days, they're going to get up and they're going to walk around Jericho one time. But on the 7th day, they're going to walk around it 7 times. And they're going to blow the horns. And you know what? We all know, most of us know, that the walls come down. But what most of us don't take time to think about is that this is an incredible strategy from God. It's supernatural. Most people would have said, this is weird. I'm not going to do this, God. I think it's weird. But Joshua was willing and obedient. Joshua had already said, hey, we're well able to take the land. So we know his heart was positioned correctly in a place for God to give him wisdom on something that was impossible, and then give him a strategy to walk it out. And he did it. And that's what God has for you with your vision, is to be able to connect with you and give you wisdom on things that even seem impossible. But you're a child of God, so nothing is impossible for you. He wants to give you that wisdom and that strategy to see that vision in your heart come to pass. And when you're going after that vision, even if you face a challenge, God's got wisdom for that situation. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. You can please send us your prayer requests on WhatsApp. We would love to connect with you. I pray you guys have a blessed week, and I'll see you next time.